guys, welcome to this Ohio farmhouse. I'm Jenna and I want to take you around and just kind of introduce you to the place today. I realized recently that it's been a hot minute since I have taken you on a tour of the property or shown you around in any way, shape, or form, and that's been years at this point, and so there has been a lot of changes that have taken place since then. And I'd like to also, just for our own sake, be able to document things of where we have come from and where we've gone, because when you're in the midst of it, it's a little bit hard to see that progress because it seems really slow moving. But even looking back at our video from a few years ago, things have just developed and changed. And so I'm going to walk you through. I want to show you the gardens, show you the animals, and kind of the setup that we have right now and the changes that are to come even this summer. We have a lot of things on the list, so let's get moving. I want to show you around. All right, now you'll notice that behind me is the house, and I am heading out to our gardens right now. The first stop we have here, these are my raised beds. So I have 4 raised beds that are in here with cattle panel arches where things will be growing up and around. You will notice that I have loads and loads of weeds. Right now I am so overtaken by weeds. I'm trying to get on top of it, so I've been out here with some natural spray. If you haven't actually checked out that video, I have a video where I compared kind of some of the natural methods of killing off weeds and have discovered the best way that I think works. So I'll link that for you to take a look at. But I've been out here working on my weeds, trying to get them under control. But so far right now, my first bed is still empty. I haven't planted in there. This one is filled with herbs, carrots, which, let me tell you, if you have not been successful at growing carrots, you should continue to try, because finally mine are germinating and growing. It's been a lot of years of trying. And then I have some lettuces growing in this bed over here. So right next to my raised beds is where my potager garden starts, and that is where pretty things are mixed in with edible things. And so right now I've got flowers and all kinds of stuff like that mixed in with cabbages, and I also have like hostas and dahlias and things like that, but also growing food kind of in between, tucked in between places. A lot of the tomatoes that I didn't have, I ran out of space in my main garden, so some of those are put in here as well. Some of the smaller tomato plants that aren't going to need nearly as much like support or trellising, some of those get intermixed into my potager gardens as well. So this is really just kind of a small portion of it. Behind me we have this old falling down greenhouse, and one day, hopefully soon, I will be renovating that and turning it into a, Pinterest dream of a greenhouse. But for now, it's kind of dilapidated and falling down. But we do store, right now we have bunnies that are living in there that live there throughout the winter, just so that they're kind of out of the elements. Okay, now I really planned on waiting to film this video for you until the property was cleaned up, because sometimes it's just hard to picture and see when there's a lot going on. So if I have lots of weeds and things in between, it doesn't come across on camera as easily. But my husband encouraged me, he's like, just be real with people, just show them the state, what it looks like when you're living on a homestead. There are so many projects and things to keep up with, and so partially for my own sake, we're doing this so that I can kind of see the progress that I've made or haven't made throughout the summer. So this is the rest of the potager garden. I don't know how easily you can see this. Okay, the potager garden was something that was established before we ever even moved into this property. The woman that we bought it from had this greenhouse actually kind of functional and selling things out of it. So there's some really unique exotic plants in here that you can't really pick up very readily. I've had somebody who is really into gardening come out here, and she's like, there are some really unique things planted in here. And so it makes it really difficult to change much of it. But there are things that are overgrown. I mean, like, I don't know if you can, right back here is just like an overgrown bush tree. The whole thing needs to be ripped out, but we need to get probably the tractor over here to do that. But I have been working on putting Like I have a little path that we have going through here now, and that's going to lead over to a water feature. Okay, so I'm walking over around kind of on the other side of the potager garden right now. There's some grasses I still need to kind of burn back for the year. This area is completely overtaken with weeds right now, and my arbor is falling over. But this is where I'm going to be adding a water feature. My kids have started digging a hole for me, and so that's on the list of projects this summer that I really, really want to get done. I want this potager garden to be a functional space. Right now it's really just overwhelming to me because it's so much. It's a really big space, and really if I could shrink it down, I would probably do that. But the way that it sits right now, that would be really, really difficult to do. So I'm trying to make, water features and things that will take up some of that space. Last year we put in a little brick patio area, so I have a little table and chairs out here. We're slowly kind of picking away at it, but it's definitely not the priority on the property, so sometimes it just kind of gets overlooked. But there's so much work to be done out here to get it to the point where I really want it to be. All right, now if I flip around behind me, this is what I would consider our main garden. This summer I really need to get some of this stuff restained. There's a lot of projects going on even just within here. But right now, as of yesterday, I have snap peas and some beans, some cucumbers, lots and lots of peppers. I have a whole area of hot peppers and then an area of sweet peppers separated so that they don't cross-pollinate. This is really just what I would consider my main garden. There's a lot of cleanup and things that need to happen still. I still have strings hanging down that were supporting my tomatoes last year that I need to just send a kid out. They're gonna cut all of those down for me and just get that tossed into the trash. Okay, so next to my main garden, I have this strawberry patch that goes down probably about 3/4 of the way, because that's how many strawberries I have at this point. Eventually I'd like it to be all strawberries. But then down towards the end, I have onions and garlic planted. So where we stand right now, I'm still all in front of our property. I would say a good portion of what we're doing happens in our front yard. So over right off of the road then, this is our orchard. And so we have, I don't know, maybe 15 or so fruit trees going on. We've got peaches and pears and apples. We did have a plum tree, and it got ran over by a child who we let mow. So that one needs to be replaced this year. We just got a cherry tree, so that's gonna go in the ground really soon. Now this is, look how mondo this tree is. That's an apple tree that's been there since we moved in. It has never, not one time, produced an apple. I think it is just super old. The kids love this tree though because they can climb in it. It's really low to the ground. So they will go up in there and they hide. They think that I can't see them. So I don't know, we've debated if we should, practically speaking, take that tree out so that we can put newer fruit trees in, just so that we can produce more food for our family, but the kids really do love that tree. All right, so this is our other driveway. We kind of have a drive that goes around. Over here, this is all pasture ground now that we have put in. You can see where the transition is, but basically where it's green, this is all pasture ground, and this summer it will be all completely fenced in. Okay, so once this is all fenced in, this entire fence row is going to be covered with raspberries. All right, this is kind of torn apart right now because I moved all of the furniture out of the way so that I could get my mowing done. This is kind of our hangout area. We have lights strung. This is where we have our fire pit. I'm considering upgrading from doing just like a portable movable fire pit to actually doing a legit in the ground one, but here is why I have hesitated. Okay, so this behind me is our corn crib, and this is kind of what we consider our outdoor living room. We've got furniture in here and a rug, and I love to come out here just to read or to work on editing a video. The kids will come in here sometimes to eat their lunch or whatever, but this is kind of just like our outdoor hangout spot. I think that what I want to do is go ahead and move our movable fireplace into this area just because it's so cozy and comfortable. Now I need to get that pressure washed out and clean it really good because leaves just build up in there throughout the summer. Okay, then I have this little path that leads through to the kids' play area. And I will show you that briefly, but I promise it is probably covered in toys and clothing because they come out in layers and just strip off when they get too hot. You'll find shoes and bikes and balls and, you know, all the things. Behind me, you see a couple of playhouses. Ben actually is kind of like a handyman contractor, and one of his big contracts that he works for is a daycare. And they had just recently changed all of their regulations. No longer can have anything wooden, and so he came home with 5 playhouses. I allowed the kids to keep 3 of them. They are making them over and we're going to be painting them, but they want one to be like a grocery store and one to be, I think one was going to be like a donut ice cream shop or something, and a flower shop. And so they're painting them and decorating them, doing all those things with 3 of them. And then my teenage daughter is finishing a couple of them. She's redoing them and she's going to sell them, kind of like a little summer job for her. Okay, so they've got their 3 playhouses, a playground, their trampoline, and like I said, filled with so many toys. It is on their regular chore list to clean up the yard where they play. Okay, now we're over. This is another one of their, it's like their big swing set. So if you ever hear my kids tell you that they're bored, they're lying. They have plenty to do here, between that and like 4-wheelers and gators, and there's plenty for them to do. Just last summer, we had another well put in. Right now, our well, it's efficient and it's very, very clean. We don't have any kind of sulfur or anything, but it was really kind of like a low flow well. We would run out. Like if I was doing multiple things in the house at the same time, the well would need to just get a minute to fill back up, and I wouldn't be able to like run a load of laundry and do the dishes and somebody be in the shower all at the same time. That just wouldn't work. So I had to kind of coordinate when those things would happen. Then it would come time for watering the garden, and there's just absolutely no way that I had enough water to make all of the things happen that needed to. So last summer, a new well went in. We made it to 300 feet. It was ridiculous. Our other well is only I think 40 some feet deep, and so that's what they were predicting that we would hit. And it went and they went and went, and we made it all the way to 300 feet. So we have a very deep well. We have more water now. So that well's purpose is taking care of all of our animals and the gardens. So this is all kind of still here, needing to be cleaned up. But one of the projects that Ben had going on was that he had a backhoe here throughout the fall and the winter, and he was putting in those water lines to connect the well to where the animals are. And then he also was putting in power lines and things like that. So right now, I mean, it's seriously, the property is torn up all over the place. It looks like we have some serious issues. So really one of the big goals of the entire summer when we sat down to do this is to just clean up the property, to kind of put back together all of the things that were torn apart last year and through the winter. And so there's kind of a lot to do there. Okay, so over here, this is my tomato garden. I think I have about 80 tomato plants in here right now that are planted. We are growing those using the Florida weave method, which means that we have a wire up at the top to kind of support, but then we are weaving these strings in and out of our plants. So that's what you see all of these poles are for. We also still need to add in some supports, a couple in the middle here. So there's going to be some T-posts that are going to be added. Behind me, this is what you saw in the last video that we're working on. That is our like little greenhouse high tunnel that we're making out of 2 old trampolines. Okay, so my tomato garden continues down here. This is all weedy still and hasn't been cleaned out for the year. So that is on my project list for tomorrow. I will be weeding that and planting the rest of the garden. So that's gonna be like squash and zucchini and lots of things like that are going into that portion of the garden. Okay, I'm not even totally sure how to show you this next part. But this is Ben's wood processing area, which is a complete disaster, and he would agree with this. But the reason that it's a disaster is because we have a couple of wood trimmers that bring all of their logs here, and so they bring them just like in a big dump truck. They dump them, Ben cuts them, stacks them, and puts them all on the pad. He is far behind because we have lots and lots of projects going on. So there's just kind of like piles of wood sitting all over where he does all of his wood. But we heat our house and all of our water solely with the wood burner. And so this is a pretty important functional part of our homestead. I would love to come up with a way to like screen it or block it off from the rest of the world seeing, but for now, it's out in the open and it's doing its job. So I will try not to complain. Okay, so our property kind of works in an L, the pasture ground. So it starts over here, comes back this way, and then it goes behind the house as well. So all of this is part of what's going to be fenced in. So Ben has a really hefty job ahead of him just for getting the fencing in this year. We have bedrock at 18 inches, and so it's going to be a challenge to say the least, but that is coming here in the next probably month or so. We're gonna really be trying to get those posts in the ground and get these steers and the goats onto fresh pasture. We are baling our own hay at this point, and so they just cut and stacked all of the hay just last week, and so that's what our animals are eating. We have almost gotten to the point where we're supplying all of their food, but we did have to buy some hay. Okay, so for now, while we are in waiting, this is where our animals live. We've got Willow, who is our guard dog. She's out here barking all night long because we have lots of coyotes lately and fox. So back here we have goats and the steers living in this pasture, eating the hay for now, but we cannot wait to get them onto that fresh grass. Okay, so behind me is the goat barn. Ben built this cute little structure to match our house. It's got a cute little porch on it. I absolutely love this little barn and the way that it turned out. So this is where our goats hang out at night. Okay, let me know if you see any. All right, this is our pig pen, and they live up to every expectation, except that I don't feel like they're nearly as stinky as what I had anticipated. I always pictured pigs being this really gross, smelly thing. But as long as we keep their ground covered with wood chips, the smell is really minimal. Like I can smell it coming right out here next to them, but I don't smell it anywhere on the property, and I am hypersensitive to all smells. So it really hasn't been that bad. I think I pretty much made it all the way around the property. Thanks for hanging out with me. Just kind of getting a glimpse of what is going on here on our homestead. I will see you next time. Remember that your home is your mission field. I'll see you next time.